Hello, my name is Lance Cummins. I'm the founder of Nectify, and we are excited today to have Benji Albrecht with us. He is a marketing strategist for attorneys, and he works in Scottsdale, Arizona, where it is a cool, what did you say today, 118?
I think it should get up to 118 today, yes.
Oh my goodness. So we are grateful for air conditioning today. Benji, thanks for taking the time to come out here and talk with me a little bit.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about the search implications for Google's SGE. Why don't you just bring me up to speed a little bit? Benji, what are we talking about when we're talking about Google SGE and how it affects search? Just treat me as if I'm like an 8-year-old because I'm about that level.
Sure.
Tell me what you know about
SGE
this.
stands for Search Generative Experience. So I'm sure if you've been on the internet or if you've not been living under a rock over the last 6 months, you've probably noticed that AI is kind of taking over the technology scene right now. And so this is Google's attempt to use artificial intelligence to augment search results. So the Search Generative Experience essentially takes the Google search results that we see now, and it uses generative AI to interpret the results and give you a curated answer that was not written by a human, but was written by artificial intelligence based on what humans wrote.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really succinct explanation. I appreciate that. So how long ago did Google kind of roll this out for the general public, or where would you, when did you begin experiencing the Google SGE?
So right now I am actually piloting the beta. Google has a offering called Google Search Labs. So if you opt into Google Search Labs, you can test it out. They haven't actually rolled this out to the general public yet. The plan is a December rollout based on last I heard from Google on that. And so it's unclear also what I'm able to see in the beta. It's just that it's a beta. So we don't know how much of that is actually going to get rolled out to the public. Okay.
This is something maybe we can figure out how to put this in a minute. Do you think there's a way you could share a screen with us and show us what it looks like, maybe as we're discussing it here in just a minute?
Certainly.
Cool. So maybe while you're doing that, if I can ask you to multitask, which I am not good at doing, but maybe you're better than me. What's kind of your first impressions of what you're seeing in Google's SGE?
First impression is this could have a significant impact on websites that have a lot of traffic coming from top of funnel queries. So what I mean by that is informational queries, where you're essentially asking, what is questions or how do I? So for example, I work with attorneys. And so if you search what is estate planning, typically that would be a query that you would optimize for on an attorney website, because if someone's asking what is estate planning, then they're on the way to figure out that they need an estate plan. So the implication here with the SGE experience is instead of actually clicking through to an attorney's website to learn what is estate planning, you're getting a curated answer right there on the search engine results page, which could be significantly detrimental to attorney websites that have a ton of content aimed at these top of funnel queries. Because if no one clicks through to the site, then the value for having that content really isn't there. And so you might see a huge traffic drop off on sites that are optimized in that way.
Okay. So it's interesting. So you said top of funnel queries, when Google is serving this up in the SGE, framework here, are they still providing links to some of these other websites that are trying to answer those questions, or like how are they presenting
They
this?
are,
Okay.
and I can show you kind of how this fits together once I figure out how to share my screen
Oh,
here.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, let me go back and I'll just ask a question about the links again below the results. I'm assuming there's some kind of result at the top, and that's where the SGE, that's where the generative result is, right? And now we've got links below it.
There's actually a link carousel in the top right. It kind of depends on the nature of the query.
Okay.
So the AI answer looks slightly different for like top of funnel queries versus like e-commerce or local SEO.
Okay.
But for the context that we were discussing before of like a top of funnel informational query, it typically gives the AI generated answer in the top left, and in the top right, there's, I believe it's 3 different. Just give me one moment. Let me.
Sure. Yeah. Can we do the what is an estate plan and see what it gives you? Because I like that example.
Yeah, definitely. So what is estate planning?
Estate planning.
Okay, so it gives a AI answer that again is essentially an aggregation of different angles from the top results on Google. And then there's a carousel that has 3 different sources. So for example, the what is estate planning query has Wikipedia's definition, it has law.cornell.edu, and then Investopedia. And then there's actually a little button in the top right where you can click and you can see where there's this breakdown of the different angles that the AI is using to piece together a comprehensive definition. So for example, one angle is estate planning is the process of arranging the transfer of assets in anticipation of death. And then another angle is what's involved in estate planning. So that angle is it involves determining how an individual's assets will be preserved, managed, and distributed after death. So each of those angles is supported by a number of sources. And the page goes, let's see, there's like 7 different angles that are all combined into the AI answer. And then there's sources supporting all of those angles. So the takeaway here is if you can optimize your content to give a unique angle that adds something to the AI answer, you could potentially get your website to show up in this 3-pack in the top right.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good insight. So that was actually what I wanted to ask next is, so with this SGE format, it sounds to me like we're now one additional step away from somebody visiting your website if you have good content on your website. So if you're trying to target these top of funnel keywords, how do I, you have to provide your own perspective in hopes that the AI algorithm includes you in its summary, if you will, of sources. And even
That's
then,
right.
We're still one more click away because they have to click to show the sources. And then now they're doing a deeper dive, right?
The top 3 sources show.
Okay.
Yeah. But past that, they're going to need to click in. And that's kind of a hidden thing where I don't see the normal user experience being clicking in.
Right. Yeah. You would normally assume I'm seeing everything I need to see to get my answer. Only the really curious are going to click that additional button.
That's right.
Interesting. Okay. So this is in beta, right? You're testing this as a part of Google Labs. What's your hunch of what of these features are going to make it to the public page versus what do you think gets changed?
Well, there's one thing that I don't think will make it, and that would be, well, I shouldn't say that. So if there's a featured snippet that gives basically the exact same information, then from a cost perspective, I just don't see why would Google spend the money to return an AI answer, because that's additional processing, and so it costs more. And so why would they serve, if the answer's nearly identical, why would they serve an AI answer when someone's content has already given just as good of an answer?
Okay.
And so I think that it may not be as comprehensive as we think, because there's going to be this cost benefit analysis of, is the benefit of the AI answer actually better for the user than just serving the featured snippet like it is now?
Okay.
And if the answer is no, then why would they expend the money to generate that AI answer?
That's fascinating. So as we all know, Google makes its money not from necessarily serving great results from organic traffic and sending people on their way. They get their money from paid ads. So I'm curious, how are they handling paid ad display in their beta SGE?
I don't see any paid advertising in the actual AI answer.
Really?
But the Google search ads are still in the search results, but it's just below the AI answer. So if you get the top, you're in the top 1 to 4 Google search ads, you're still, if you're in the top spot, then you don't have to scroll. But if you're in the second spot for a Google search ad, then someone has to scroll just to even see your ad.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is pretty huge, considering you used to be at the very top of the page.
Do you have a sense? This is probably a little off topic since we're really thinking about the SEO implications. But do you have a sense of how Google is going to monetize this format? Because as you said, they just pushed paid ads even further down the page, which literally is the source of their revenue. I'm curious how you foresee maybe them monetizing this AI experience.
I haven't really given that a ton of thought. I guess it's possible that if you want the AI answers, that would be a premium product that you would have to subscribe to. But they could also weave ads into, like for e-commerce queries, they might weave the ads into the actual AI answer somehow.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because Google, like as far back as I can remember, they've like put more and more effort into keeping someone on the search results page, right? Like it used to be, they would just serve all these links, people click and go on their way. And then it was, well, let's grab this featured snippet. And then now it's people also ask, and those things just keep popping up down below. And they just really want to make sure you stay on that page because eventually they want you to click on a paid link, because that's obviously a monetization technique. So it's fascinating to me to see how they're iterating that with these AI tools. So you advise attorneys on SEO and how to get people to their site, how to get their next clients. What are some of the preliminary things you're thinking are going to be important for your clients, and for those who are watching this who aren't attorneys? What are some of the things that you're telling them they need to be doing with their organic traffic to prepare for this rollout?
So we need to be thinking bottom up in terms of like how we approach the funnel. We need to be targeting those keywords that are super high intent. So I always tell attorneys it's not rocket science. If the word attorney or lawyer is in the query, then they're actually looking for an attorney or lawyer. But even the top of funnel queries that are like, what is estate planning? They may just want a will at the cheapest possible price. They may not even want to work with an attorney. They might want to go to LegalZoom or some other online service because they don't understand why that might not be a good idea. Mm-hmm. So we start with the bottom of the funnel. What are the keywords that are closest to someone actually hiring an attorney or making a transaction in some other, product or service scenario? And that's where we're going to start. And then also local is just as important as ever, because if you look at, and I will search this now, let's see. If I search best tax attorneys in Arizona, well, that's a your money, your life query. So that's an important distinction is generative AI Google shouldn't serve an AI answer for a your money, your life query.
Explain what that is. That sounds
cool. Those categories, I'm sorry?
That sounds cool. Your money, your life. It almost sounds like a threat. I like it. Tell me what that is. Your money, your life.
So that's one of Google's categories of content, which basically puts it in its separate category so that it can hedge against the risk that Google would give someone financial or legal advice.
Ah, okay.
Because that's so important to their life.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so they call it your money, your life.
Okay.
And so there isn't really that clear of a line, though, because estate planning is your money, your life.
Right.
But I just searched what is estate planning, and we got an AI answer. So at what point, where does Google make the distinction of, hey, this is now legal advice?
So let's do an experiment real quick. I'm curious about this.
Sure.
So what if someone were to ask, how do I start estate planning? Because that's like a how do I, top of funnel, but it's also, it seems to be something like I want to take some action on it. So describe what you're seeing here as you walk us through the page.
So I'm seeing a AI answer that says, here are some steps you can take to start estate planning. And it's a step-by-step list. And then at the bottom, it says, this is not legal advice. You may want to consult a lawyer about this question.
Need a lawyer? Look at these links below.
Right. And then there's 7 steps for estate planning. There's this Angermeyer and Rogers law firm. There's LegalZoom and then NerdWallet that have their spots in that 3-pack carousel I was referring to before.
Okay.
For the sources supporting the AI answer.
Interesting. So do you think, I'm really hung up on this paid search, not because I realize you and I are both talking about SEO, so that's actually a separate thing, but I just happen, I like to think of it from Google's perspective, like how are they going to make more money off of this? Because that's really what they want to do, right? So do you see that they will allow you to purchase, or on the PPC side, allow you to basically target these types of queries where they know they're going to be serving an AI result, but maybe there's some other way to get in front of people in the future besides just those links that are now pushed below the fold, if you will?
I don't know I don't see any reason why if they were really hurting, why they wouldn't put, they could just move the position of the Google search ads to be on the top of the page again. But really it's going to come down to trust. And this is why people still invest in SEO, is because people fall into one of two groups. You either click the paid ads or you ignore them.
Exactly.
And so if you don't trust the paid ads, then you're going to go to the AI answer. And if you don't trust the AI answer, then you're going to go to the organic results like we always have. So it's going to come down to consumer trust and how they prefer, consuming their information.
That's actually a very good insight, Benji. Let's drill down on this for a second, because if you think about it, if the type of person determines whether they're going to follow an organic link to your website, you're actually getting almost like a pre-filter of who comes to your website, and you're getting the people who are more skeptical, if you will, or at least they're more industrious. What would be the word here? Like how would we define that person who ignores the AI answer, laughs at the paid for ads because they know that that's just a game, and we're looking for the organic search result to go learn more. How would you describe that person?
I would say they're, like you said, they're skeptical.
Okay.
And they don't want to hear what Google is going to report to them as the best answer. They want to compare unique perspectives.
That's good.
If they
yeah.
can read actual content from thought leaders in a space and then weigh their options, they're going to come to a much more informed decision than just taking Google's word for it.
That's huge, right? Because for so long, the way to win the search game was generic content, say the same things, write really huge pages, sure, all of this stuff. But the thing that was always difficult is how do you get somebody to tell their opinion on a certain topic? How do you teach somebody? How do you advocate for the reader in a way that goes beyond the just regurgitating what everybody else is saying? That's going to become more valuable as we move forward with organic search results. Is that what you're kind of implying?
That's right. So I think of it as, what can AI not do?
Okay.
And so it can't be creative. It can't give it probably can give an opinion, but where's that coming from? I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
But it doesn't have any experience.
Okay.
And so if you want to, especially for your money, your life, you want to rely on someone who's heavily experienced, who's seen these issues before, who's helped solve problems that the user's facing.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So you're encouraging your clients. You say, you mentioned this kind of early in our discussion where you said, make sure that if you're going to talk about a top of funnel keyword, choose an angle. Make sure you have an angle in hopes of getting listed. Can you give us just a little more just kind of direction? When you're talking about an angle, how do you coach your clients to figure out what that means? Or how do you get them thinking that way?
I wouldn't use that terminology with them. I would just focus more on unique perspective.
Okay.
And supplementing any general information they're providing, supplementing it with maybe a case study or, explaining a client fact pattern and how that applied to the situation. So for estate planning, if you're explaining why a will-based estate plan isn't the best for most people, and it's usually because even with a will-based estate plan, your estate still has to go through probate. And so you might support that statement with laying out one of your clients, they passed away, they had a will-based estate plan, someone didn't think they were getting their fair share, they filed something in court, and then it went back and forth, and then the legal fees of the probate process drained the estate. They got 20% of what they would have gotten. And then reflecting on that, how would this have been different if they had a revocable living trust? It would have been a trust administration. It would have been private. Sure, if someone was arguing, there would have been lawyers involved, but they wouldn't be filing things with court. The court wouldn't be involved, and they would have saved a lot of money. So that's what I mean by unique perspective. And working, primarily with attorneys gives me kind of an edge because I understand what perspectives might be valuable because I did paralegal work for almost 6 years. Okay.
Yeah. So you have an insight into what are the questions people are actually asking when it comes to this stuff. And what some of those terminologies
from years of taking potential client calls.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. So let's move back to the SGE thing real quick. So what is a function of SEO right now that you feel like is going to become obsolete once Google rolls out this SGE update? So in other words, the things that we do now as SEO experts or companies who are trying to rank in SEO, what's something that will go away when SGE rolls out?
I don't think anything will completely go away as far as job function. But and I say that because the ranking factors that we've always examined are still going to be the ranking factors that the AI uses to decide what to include in the search results.
Okay.
So even if you have a unique angle with your content, if your site doesn't have enough authority to be on page one, then you're probably not going to be on page one still.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is this doesn't really change much of the game if you're currently doing SEO well, how you're thinking about it. Potentially, those same skills, those same approaches are going to be useful moving forward, especially if maybe you've got different strategies for top of funnel versus bottom of funnel. Is that a fair summary?
I think so. I think, could you repeat the comment one more time?
Yeah, basically, I'm trying to figure out, like, if you're going to tell somebody, look, you're currently doing these things in SEO for your SEO strategy. Yes, Google SGE is going to change a lot of the user experience, but the ways that you're going to succeed in SEO in the future, even with SGE, is still using the same approach that you're doing now, assuming you're successful with it now.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the approach is going to change all that much. The thing that will change is how the content ends up getting packaged and served to the end user. And then also the value of SEO will change for those top of funnel queries, because the click-through rate might be affected. And it, based on what I'm seeing now, it likely will be affected. So if someone's not clicking through to your website and you don't get the opportunity to serve them a call to action and get them to read another blog post or schedule a consultation with your office, then the value of ranking goes down.
So that sounds pretty terrifying for those of us who have spent a lot of time trying to bring traffic in to the top of funnel. And we've mentioned effort around the bottom of funnel. Let's kind of move in between those two. So the middle of funnel content, which is sort of like the forgotten component of content marketing. What do you see as sort of the best approach for content that, let's say, isn't necessarily I need to hire an attorney, but isn't what is an estate plan? It's somewhere there in the middle, right? So the way I define middle of content is essentially you're answering a question about somebody who for someone who already pretty much knows what's going on, and they're trying to determine between a few alternatives for something. I don't know if that's your definition or not. Maybe give me your definition, middle funnel.
I try not to think. I kind of broke from this when I said, we should start at the bottom of the funnel queries.
Okay.
Because that's true for attorneys. If it has the word attorney in it, you definitely want to be targeting that keyword. But outside of that, I try not to distinguish too much between top of funnel and middle of the funnel.
Okay.
I like to think about it like you just said, where you find the keywords that are people who are clearly interested. Like you said, they're in the consideration phase. So they're weighing options. They're trying to see the benefits of one option versus another. And so if what you want to do is, whether it's top of funnel or middle of the funnel, I don't care. But if it's a relevant query to what you do, you definitely want to still be targeting that keyword. And then you want to make sure that you have calls to action in the middle of that blog post and then at the end of the blog post.
Okay.
It's not so much important exactly where it is, but that it makes sense logically for the reader. It's not interrupting them. And it's a smooth transition between that query and whatever you want them to do.
I like that. A transition. Think of your content as the CTA as the transition between where they're at and where you want them to go. Yeah, that's a nice way to describe it.
And I think that that's what's going to separate people who are still winning with content marketing versus people who aren't, is who's actually hiring, conversion focused copywriters to write really solid calls to action and then weaving those throughout all of their blog posts, all of the pages on their site. And so that there's that smooth transition from page to page, and then from the page to them scheduling a consultation or whatever call to action has the most value for your business.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. It's interesting because in a way what this is doing is it makes the value of a single visit to your site higher, right? Because when you get someone to the site, they've worked to get there because they avoided the AI answer. They ignored the paid stuff. They're literally clicking a button sometimes to go, please show me what's behind all of this. When they get to your site, now you've got somebody who's already invested some effort into even getting there. So when you get somebody to your site, you've got to make sure you've got things nailed down to help them, as you've talked about, transition them from where they are, what got them there, to where you think you can help them the most. That's a fantastic potential positive for all of us working on websites, because now your owned media, the thing that's on your website, is more and more valuable because somebody had to work to get there. They didn't just stumble across it.
That's a really keen observation. Yeah.
Because a lot of times, especially with top of funnel stuff, at least in the past, for instance, we one time had a post that was ranking really, really well for white paper, creating a white paper. And you would think, oh man, for a marketing company that does content, that would be gold. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't, because what happened is we would get all of the kids who are in marketing classes throughout the world in college, because one of their assignments was go describe what a white paper is. And so we have thousands of students on our website, right, that are inflating our traffic numbers, making us feel better about ourselves than we need to. And our conversion rate is like pretty much at zero on that blog post because there's not much of an intent. In the future, potentially, if you have that, somebody comes through a white paper blog post, they've worked hard to get there. It's probably not a kid hacking his way through an answer to get a good score on a essay or something. It's probably somebody who actually cares. So it's going to be interesting how that changes the value of what you have on your site. It's going to be fun.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, I think we've gotten a lot of good stuff here today. I don't want to drive things into the ground, but I would like to open it up just for you to give me, are there some insights or thoughts you have about Google SGE that we haven't really covered today that you think is really important for, let's say, for your attorneys to know, and by extension, the people who watch what we're talking about today?
For attorneys specifically, local SEO is going to be more important than ever, because the SGE experience is a slightly cleaner version of the Google Map Pack. And so if you can rank in the Google Map Pack, then you can rank in SGE, as far as the tests that I've done and the results that I've seen. For people in the e-commerce space, it returns results. So if you, for example, if I search, what was it, best espresso machine, the AI answer returns a list of different machines at different price points. And for example, one says good for beginners above it. Another says good for latte art. And so these little comments that are part of the AI answer actually come from user reviews. And so for e-commerce, user reviews is going to be more important than ever. And then also, it seems to me that if whoever's selling the product with the same specifications at the lowest price, is probably going to win, because if you click on the actual product, it doesn't actually just take you through to a website. It returns different vendors and it gives the price right there. So if you're looking at 3 espresso machines with the exact same specifications,
Wow.
and one is $628.99 and the others are closer to $700, you're probably going to buy it from Amazon because it's $629 instead of $700.
Okay.
So e-commerce is, and I don't really work with e-commerce clients, but this is just kind of obvious observations from playing with the tools. And I think that one actually came from a guy by the name of Kevin Indig, who's also in the SEO space.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll see retailers, e-commerce retailers, probably have to straddle the line between free shipping, which is a key component to get people to buy, versus marking your price up to cover that free shipping, because you want to keep your listed price as low as possible to show up high in those search results. That's some really interesting strategies or conundrums that they're going to have to deal with for sure.
It's going to be difficult, especially with Amazon. And if you have Prime, you get free shipping on most things anyway.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this benefits companies like Amazon.
Yeah, which we know it will.
Yeah. So another thing that's kind of a big takeaway is you were asking me about the paid results and what are they going to do about that? And the way I see it is Google was forced into this SGE experience product because of ChatGPT. Because in my opinion, they're scared that if Google users adopt ChatGPT and ChatGPT is giving it better answers to questions than Google is, then people may no longer go to Google as their first source of information. And so they're kind of backed into a corner here where they're just worried about getting the eyeballs to begin with. And then once they've solved that problem, okay, based on this new way that we have to operate to even get the eyeballs, how do we monetize it? And so I think they're kind of in this is a defensive play by Google's part, in my opinion. That's
an interesting point. In our last discussion that we had on this show last month, we were talking about how I could almost see a future where we're back to people choosing different search engines or different chat platforms to get different queries answered, which is back to kind of the wild west of how the internet was before Google came along and kind of took everything over. There used to be dozens of search engines, dozens of ways you would go try to find information. As an SEO person from way back, you used to have to track rankings on all of these different platforms and do all of this different stuff. And you kind of see a path toward that again. You could see people splintering off in different directions. It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out for sure.
Definitely. Just one last comment. And this has to do with, you asked me how attorneys should be approaching the SEO game, given the SGE rollout in December. And I think, again, the people who are going to win here are people who are focused not on what keywords have the highest volume, how do I target the keywords to get the most traffic to my site. Forget that. I think what they need to do is they need to think, who's my ideal client? What questions do they need answers to before they feel comfortable doing business with anyone? And then what are some unique observations and perspectives that I can give them on this topic so that they see me as a thought leader and they either agree with me or they don't. If they don't agree with me, then they shouldn't be my client anyway. They're not my ideal client. If they do agree with me, then they probably want to do business with me. And so we need to forget about let's go out, let's get the most traffic possible from keywords. And we need to think about who's our ideal client, who do I enjoy working with, who do I make the most money working with, how do I build content that's for them? And then brand traffic. So if someone searches for your law firm name, they're going to find your website still. And then you need to make sure the content on your website is built for that person. If we can target some of it to different keywords, great. If we can't, then that's okay too, because the SGE might, take a solid slice of that traffic anyway.
That's really good. It's classic quality personalized marketing, human to human marketing, right? I want to talk to somebody as if they're across the table from me, answer the questions that are on their mind. If we're a good fit, let's work together. That has gotten so lost in SEO over the years because we spend time like gaming things and trying to trick things. And we're going to talk about this and then get them over here. But you've really highlighted a great point that this is humans doing business with humans. And now we've got AI kind of running alongside, taking care of all the stuff that humans probably needed help with anyway. And we can still have this personal conversation with our future customers. So we don't need to be afraid. That's what I'm hearing. This is good. Instead, it's just about focusing on what makes us really good at being people and helping other people. Maybe.
100%.
Cool. All right. Well, Benji, thanks so much for taking time to talk with us today. This has been super helpful. I'm excited to just kind of see how some of these forecasts roll out into real life. And I really appreciate your insight. It's been fantastic.
Likewise. Thank you, Lance.